Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back. We have the Belkin N600 DB wireless router. Also 4 Ethernet ports on the back so you can connect to Ethernet or the wireless. It's up to you. Now 600 means 300 plus by 300 plus for Wi-Fi, and of course within that you get up to 300 out of the Ethernet port, as far as what I can tell from specs online, because they're just not that specific, but I can pretty much say, yeah, it's up to 300 even on the Ethernet. However, the only way you are going to achieve that up to thing is, number one, you do have to have an incoming internet connection to your home of at least 300, but your computer also has to be able to get off the 10100 band, because 10100 restricts you to a minimum of 10 megabits, where the 100 side, 100 megabits obviously. But yet we bought a 300 megabit per second router. What's up? Well, you need to get to that gigabit access point on your computer. Now, older Macintosh computers, like my 2009 iMac, and probably a few more newer up from that, at least until we get into operating systems like Big Sur, Monterey, and I guarantee you Ventura is not going to allow you 1 gigabit access on those 3 OSs until you have gigabit line and a gigabit router that it can see. So, of course, on our new Mac Minis running Ventura, this router, though the signal is definitely a lot more than 300 coming into the puppy, yeah, we couldn't get more than 100 out of the sucker because we can't switch to the gigabit side because it's not a gigabit router, so we're stuck at 10100. But a lot of PCs wouldn't have this problem, some would. Security Encryption is WEP, WPA, and WPA2. When you start getting into gigabit routers, at least the one that we have, we can't use any of those encryptions for the Wi-Fi. We have to actually go WPA3, because otherwise we get an error saying that our password security is insecure. So yeah, if you want to be secure, you got to go WPA3. Now that creates a problem with a newer gigabit router if you have any older computers, especially a Macintosh that's older. They can't go past WPA2 encryption. The network cards don't allow it. So that can be a bit of a problem because it will not connect under any circumstance. So we kept our Belkin router since upgrading to the 1 gigabit, and I've piggybacked this off one of the ports on the back of the D-Link because this thing does my WPA2 security, which I need for my older iMac. And then this way I can still connect to the internet wirelessly. I'm just connecting to the Belkin. Now I can also use the USB port if I want to as well. Now the signal coming into that router is definitely way higher than what the router is rated for, but that's fine. The router is only going to pump through what it can. So anyways, it does have BG and N for the Wi-Fi stuff, so it's not going to be the newest, greatest Wi-Fi technology out there, obviously. But this router still currently sells in Canada from Amazon, brand new, for $167.30. And of course, in the US from Amazon.com, $104 US. Now you can buy this router used anywhere between $6 at your local Value Village, could be a little higher depending on the mood the person's in that's pricing it that day, upwards to $70. I've seen these things used on the internet. So 6 to 40 is the average, and upwards to $70 as a used router. So, of course, all that depends on condition, but also where you buy it. Like I said, Value Village, thing is in perfect condition, no hassles with it, works perfectly fine, still does, you know. And we paid, I think, not very much for that thing. Like, I think it was under 10 bucks. So that was a great deal. Now, it also has USB ports on the back. I'm not sure what kind of a view I can give you. It does have actually 1 USB port. And so that'll hopefully help. So you got your main line in, which is your yellow, and then your 4 ports, and then USB. Now the USB you can hook either a printer onto the back of this thing or a hard drive or SSD. So if you want to get movies from your TV, save them to your drive that way, you can do that if you have a smart TV, etc. You know the deal, right? Anyways, as far as the router goes, if your incoming signal is within the limitations and your computers will switch over properly to allow you the access to that up to 300 range, then I see no reason why this is not a decent little router to get your hands on, because you don't really need a gigabit router unless you have a signal that's much greater than 300 megabits per second coming into your home. Then you'd want a gigabit router and switch everything to gigabit. And even if you're not at a gigabit, you're at least going to take full advantage of your service as per, you know, the normal conditions in life, how internet works. Because your speeds also always change and fluctuate with pings and jitters every time you run a test. So now there is a lot of things built into this, like Norton Security, which is completely pointless and useless, but hey, if you're a Norton fanatic, go ahead. I hate the products from Norton. The only thing they ever made any good was the recovery software, because that stuff is like the bomb. It works absolutely perfect, but I'll have nothing else to do with their garbage. So, but that's your choice. There are people who believe in Norton, and that's fine. But anyways, the main router itself, it's pretty sleek in design, as you can see. It's kind of like a wedgie shape. Just stands right up. No big deal there. It does come with, of course, your little removable card that contains your password and stuff, plus a secondary copy underneath that is a sticker. So you can put one away in hiding, and the other one you can just leave the sticker on. And so if you forget your passcode, it's like, oh, flip the router upside down, turn it, you know, and check your password and sign back in, whatever. You can also change your password too. I don't see any reason why that would be a problem, but do what you wish on that one. Doesn't chew up much as far as power goes, and you don't have to ever turn it off either. Also has what's called self-healing software, so if there is kind of an issue going on anywhere with your Wi-Fi, especially within the router, it does have a healing application built into it. So if your light is not a solid blue, that means you'll get an indicator light of some other kind, or a blinking light of some color. And yep, that's good indication that you need to address that self-healing thing and work out the bugs or reset the router, that sort of deal. So pretty cool little features. Very straightforward for setups too. Very straightforward. And running the software from your computer, it's just a matter of typing in that one dot code, you know what I mean? 192 dot whatever code, and voila. You log in, do your things, do your setups, connect, and you're done in like a matter of a couple minutes. It is not hard to do at all. It is so simplistic. And pretty much any router nowadays, you know, unless you have to be a rocket scientist kind of thing with one, you're pretty much set and go that it's that simple to set pretty much any router up without any hassle. So you don't have to be a computer techie to do this stuff, okay? So, but anyways, for what we paid, I cannot judge a rating because, oh, we just paid under $10, so you gotta buy it. No, that's not how it works in life. But I will say this. You can buy a gigabit router from D-Link right now that kicks some serious butt and is going to work with you, give you a lot more range too around the home, etc. Probably some good outdoor range. I haven't tested that on the D-Link yet, but give me time. You know, you can buy a router like that right now from like Best Buy and a few other places for a lot less money. But it kind of depends, you know, that's going to be maybe an overkill router for you. So why spend the little amount to get a better router when you don't really need it, kind of thing. Or maybe it's a space issue because this thing chews up like next to no space whatsoever. Our D-Link router is probably about 5 times wider and around the same kind of depth. So it's kind of a thing about that. Now the antennas on this are also built right in too, which is nice. They're hidden away. You don't see them anywhere. Now we've had no issues anywhere within the house. Now we do live in a 1-floor apartment, so we actually live in the whole bottom half of a house, and no connection issues anywhere indoors. Okay, outdoors I can get about 35 to maybe 40 feet away from this router, and my Wi-Fi signal is going to start getting really weak quick. So for outdoor to indoor metal structures and stuff and all the electrical in the house and all that, that's actually not bad. It's not great, but not bad for outdoors. Could always be better, of course. But I don't use my internet outdoors that often. However, for being in the house, it does work fine. But just remember, it's going to have some restrictions, especially if you have a new enough Macintosh computer. That Mac will not allow you to go to the gigabit setting to take advantage of even the up to 300 portion of this thing, unless it sees a gigabit router with gigabit line. And we have the gigabit line, but this is not a gigabit router, so the Mac will not switch over, but older Macs will. My 2009 does switch over even to the gigabit side, so I can increase my speed. And that's going to be taking place only within the Ethernet more than anything. Your Wi-Fi is going to be your Wi-Fi, okay? And it's going to be relegated to whatever. So with Wi-Fi stuff, it's not an issue for any operating system, newer or older, technically. But you are limited to that up to 300. And I found that up to 300 actually was not really that great on our newer Macs, because we do have a really powerful signal coming into the house now. So going to the D-Link router with the gigabit, that's gigabit Ethernet, but then on the Wi-Fi side we've got up to, they call it up to 1700. They split the difference. You get about 1200 on the one side, which would be your 5 gigahertz. And then on your 2.4 you get like over 450. Now that made a substantial increase in speed, even with Wi-Fi, with my not only my PC laptop, but also with my Macintosh M1. So going to that D-Link router was a benefit. So with this, with the 300 plus, for 2.4, 5 gigahertz, and of course your Ethernet, we did see much slower speeds in comparison, test to test, back to back. So technically, if you want a lot faster Wi-Fi speeds, no matter what computer you have, you're probably going to be better off actually going to a gigabit router in that case. You know, you're still going to need the gigabit incoming Ethernet cable and a signal matching well enough to 300 plus to take advantage. So it's kind of a really tricky thing with routers. I'm going to have to do a separate video, which is probably going to take about 40 minutes at least, but at least you'll know everything you'll ever need to know. So anyways, other than that, I wouldn't bother buying this thing brand new unless it's the only thing you kind of need, right? If this is all you need, it's going to suit you. You're not, you know, dealing with gigabit Ethernet stuff. You're not over the 300 megabit per second coming into your house. Then yeah, it's a fine router, and I have no problem recommending it for that, okay? But I kind of still, I'm looking at the price and I'm still kind of shaking my head a little bit. I'd almost say it's almost better off to go find one of these things used, or just go buy a brand new gigabit router. You know, I mean, eventually you'll upgrade your internet anyways, right? Maybe. Some people never do. But either way, for what it is, and keeping that in mind, I think that used pricing is more than fair. Even upwards to 80 bucks used is definitely a fair price. I'd probably try and pay a little bit less, but 80 is still better than paying 167 or even 104 US dollars, okay? So yeah, I think picking up a used one, definitely I'm 100% in on that, especially if you don't have a lot of money, and a lot of people nowadays don't. So hey, pick up a cheap used router, away you go. Brand new wise, 167 I think is a little bit high for what we're getting. You know, and considering that newer computers are now running the new Wi-Fi 6 technologies and whatnot, like all of ours do, and they've got the Wi-Fi, what do they call it, AX or something. Yeah, so I would look towards something maybe newer in technology wise, but otherwise if you're on the ABGN stuff and you're still on a computer that's about 3 or 4, maybe 5 years old, then yeah, this would be a good fit. Or you can future-proof yourself ahead of time. Just go out and buy a gigabit router for a little bit less money, you know. Sometimes it pays to actually have the higher horsepower even if you don't need it right away, because eventually you may need it or may want it, and at least you were already prepped ahead of time. It's like computers. You future-proof yourself. You should, at least for at least every 5 years. But anyhow, that's what I got for you guys. So let me know what you think of it. I think as far as the overall picture of things, I would put this thing easy, 4.5 out of 5. It's been a fantastic router for us, even by picking it up used. We don't have a lot of money all the time, so this was a benefit for us to be able to get it so cheap, which was ridiculous. And you never know, right? But it works fine. So my rating is based solely upon, let's look at brand new price. 167 new might be a little bit much, and I think it is. But look at what was available when this first came out too, and what the prices were then on the higher performing routers. They were a lot more money in comparison. Why this thing still sells for what it does new, I have no frigging clue, but I think that that's a little high compared to what you can get in higher performance rated routers nowadays for a lot less money that are definitely way better, right? But again, individual needs, right? So, and Belkin is a good product line. I've not heard much in the way of bad things about the Belkins, so there's not been that many bad reviews on them. We didn't bother looking at reviews per se. We were kind of just scoping things out a little bit of, is this actually a good price? Or, what do people think of this router too? And you kind of weigh the difference and go, well, you know what, for under 10 bucks, let's give it a go. What's the worst that could happen? And it's been fine, still working fine. And like I said, I've piggybacked it off my D-Link so I can still get my old Mac back on the internet. So that's a win-win in my books, because the new router won't connect to our old Macs. So that's another big thing to think about. But other than that, I think we've pretty much covered it all. We got prices, we got specs, we got what it is. Like I said, it will not go past WPA2 security. Yeah, N600 does not mean 600 megabits. It means 300, up to 300 on the Ethernet, and definitely up to 300 on the 2.4 or 5 gigahertz connection points. Now 5 gigahertz is obviously going to be your fastest, but shorter range, 2.4, a little bit more range, and actually a little bit slower than 5 gigahertz. Anyhow, that's it. That's all. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.